Hello, everybody. My name is Rosie, and welcome to Turn on the AC, a podcast where we talk about what it is to be an Asian Christian creative navigating through life in today's modern society. We hope to create community, inspire, challenge, and encourage our fellow creatives with each episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Turn on the AC. Today, I am super excited because I have such an awesome guest today with me. I have Paul Kim. Paul is a creative director, entrepreneur, and leader based in Los Angeles, California. He is the founder of Hello Revival, co-founder of SAMMEE. Am I saying that correct, Paul?
SAMMEE.
SAMMEE. Okay, SAMMEE, and executive creative director of Stoggles. Paul combines innovative thinking, organizational skills, and strategic design in one, guiding teams to turn great ideas into coherent systems and campaigns. So he's previously worked with clients like Amazon, HBO, Caseology, NYX, Platronics, ArcLight Cinemas, and Facebook. His passion is to take consumer lifestyle and retail brands to the next level. His approach is guided by his attention to detail, ensuring each component of a brand is thought through, from startups to Fortune 500 companies. And so thank you, Paul, so much for being here today with me. I am super excited for the conversations that are going to take place here. And with that, I want to dive into the first question to get to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, fun,
So the
exciting.
first question is, what's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Yeah, starting with a good one, huh? A lot of times I actually get asked this question a lot. I don't know why, and my answer is pretty much always the same. I grew up with this. I've been told a lot when I was young, like always have a spirit of excellence and a spirit of doing everything for the Lord. And like at a young age, that sounds really awesome and cool, but I found myself turning it more into perfection in my life.
Mm.
So if I could time travel back to when I was young, I would literally tell myself, like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to try new things. Like life is a huge journey and a process. And in the spirit of excellence, we can do things, like we're doing it all for the Lord. But
Yeah.
sometimes, you kind of want to become perfect in certain things, and it's more crippled certain things in my life. And it
Mm.
kind of I missed the moment, or I wasn't present in the moment because I was always looking ahead or looking at to make it better, do something better. So if I could tell myself again, if I was younger, it's like forget about the perfection. Excellence is great, but it's always about being in the moment, enjoying life, and enjoying the process.
Yeah, I love that. Where do you think that strive for perfection came from?
Honestly, I think it comes from my cultural background as a Korean American. Like my
Mm.
parents were actually not the type to say like you have to become a lawyer or a doctor, but they've
Yeah.
always told me like strive for greatness, strive for excellence. You have like one life to live. And I'm actually super grateful for that. If I didn't have that, I don't know if I'd be the same type of person I am today.
Mm.
But also that kind of the negative side of that is like always trying to make sure I'm doing something huge or grand,
Yeah.
which can also cripple me at times.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah.
So could you share a little bit of your testimony, how you found Jesus and how he's helped you through your creative journey for us?
Yeah. So actually, I'm, one of the really fortunate ones to say I've always grown up in the faith, as in I was born into faith. My parents are really strong believers. My dad he was a missionary for our local church for a huge season of his life. So I've always grown up in the church. But it wasn't really till my youth where I like really took my faith seriously. Had great pastors growing up, great mentors and leaders. So I would say like through my youth, I got saved. And since then, it's been a really great journey of pursuing the calling that Jesus and God has placed in my heart and for my life.
Mm.
So that's kind of like how I got into faith. And
Yeah.
with creativity, like right out of high school, I spent the season in Kansas City at IHOP KC. That's where I really got transformed into thinking like, how can I use the talents God has given me for the sake of furthering his kingdom? So that's led me on a wild journey into creativity. And I ended up, pursuing design and art and kind of exploring that. And it's where I am today.
Awesome. How did you
Yeah.
get into IHOP, or how did you know about IHOP?
Yeah, so at my local church, IHOP, the music that they produced was really popular at my local church.
Mm,
So for me, I grew up, on the worship team, and I was a drummer in high school, and always being around that kind of music, it was like something we always knew. But like my dream was to actually visit the prayer room and the ministry instead of
yeah.
always watching it online. So I actually went to their One Thing conference, their annual conference back in high school. My
Mhm.
life got transformed. I fell in love with having like passion and zeal for Jesus. And then, right out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. So I thought, why not just go to the prayer room and figure all that stuff out over there? So applied for their music academy and just went straight to IHOP.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. So could you tell us more about Hello Revival? What is it, why it was created, and the name behind it as well?
Yeah. So Hello Revival is kind of like it's like my first child, my first baby. It really came out of a desire back right out of college. Like I
Mm,
was at a point in life where I wanted more. And what I mean by that is like I just wanted to love Jesus more and pursue my like really taking my faith seriously.
yeah.
And not that I wasn't taking it seriously, but I started finding myself like really striving after like conferences, gatherings, movements. There's a lot of these cool programs all over the country, all over the world. But I found myself to not be satisfied. Like it can't
Mm,
just be about a weekend or a cool event. Like there's got to be more. And I've always been told growing up, like it's all about your relationship with God in the secret place behind the doors. And I believe that. And I truly think that's how we do grow spiritually. So right after college, I went to design school, and I wanted to use like I was telling God, like, how can I use my talents to really serve you?
mm,
More than just like, making cool stuff. It's like I really want to have purpose. So I've always had a desire in my heart to actually create, like design and create my own planner.
yeah.
So that's kind of where the idea was born. And I, integrated it with faith. So it's not just a regular planner. There's faith integrated, Bible verses, scripture, sermon notes for the weekends. So
Mm,
it kind of started as a passion project. I didn't think it would be a company or a brand. Um, I made a couple for myself and my close friends. And my friend at the time, who was kind of helping me with this idea, was like, "Hey, this would be really cool for everyone. Like this should be something you do for everyone." So he's the one who kind of convinced me, like, why don't you turn this into an actual company and try this thing out? So I've never started a company. I've never done anything. So I'm a type of person that likes to just learn as I go. Um,
yeah.
so literally just made a few, ordered about 500 from overseas, and then just took a risk. And God has been so good so far. It's been almost 3 full years now. Actually, it was September in 2018, so 3 full years.
Wow,
Um,
congratulations.
yeah, it's pretty surreal, to be honest.
That's awesome. I love journaling, and then I love the
Mm,
fact that you're also incorporating Bible verses and sermon notes, because
mhm,
especially you don't really, I mean, you could take a church you could take a journal to church,
mhm.
but to have a specific location for the sermon
Yeah,
notes is
exactly.
something that, especially me being organized, I love having.
And the cool part is it's not actually meant for a journal on Sundays, as in that's a part of the structure and the design, but it's actually
Yeah,
meant for Monday through Saturday, which I think is the most valuable part.
yeah,
Because a lot of times, I end up falling into this where Sunday is like a really good day, but Monday through Saturday it's really hard.
yeah.
Sometimes God feels so distant. So that's why I wanted to create a product that's more about Monday through Saturday than just Sunday.
So good, yeah, and
Yeah.
and I love that your friend was able to affirm you in this, and then for you to be like, "Alright, because they believe in this too, let me do this," you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
What were your doubts, or, did you have doubts and struggles when you first started out Hello Revival? And if so, what were they and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So, back in 2018, there wasn't many Christian or faith-based companies out there that I could see or think of.
Mm,
So obviously the doubt is like, how is this gonna work? I know there's a ton of Christians all over the world. I believe that and I see that,
yeah,
but like I've never seen a company or a brand that's catered towards only the Christian faith.
Mm.
Um, so that was like my biggest doubt and my struggle. But I have a friend of mine named Brian who has his own Christian faith-based brand called
Oh,
Alabaster
yeah.
Co. And
Mhm.
when I saw that, that's when I kind of got the inspiration, like, okay, this can be possible in our community, right? In our faith-based community.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of risk and a lot of finances and investments, but at the end of the day, I found it to be a really beautiful journey so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I kind of want to talk about, was there a moment in that journey where you're like, God, well, what are you doing? If am I supposed to be in this direction? And how did
Mm.
you come back to, okay, this is what God wants me to do?
Oh yeah, that's a very great question. The first anytime you start something, it's very glorious, it's happy, a lot of energy, a lot of
Yeah.
friends are supporting you. So like it's really easy to start something,
Mm,
like some people are really afraid to start stuff, but
mm.
my encouragement is like starting is the easy part. It's the longevity and the sustaining part that gets really hard.
Yeah,
So,
good.
about like 6 months or 8 months into it, you know, once I've like sold a couple of planners, I was like, okay, it's like kind of it's died down now. Is it over? Like, is this it?
Yeah.
And then, all my business mentors and people who are doing brands and companies would tell me like, that's just business. You just got to keep going and keep learning. But I got to a point where I was like, God, is this really it? Like, is this what I want to do? And it
Mm,
wasn't like I heard, an audible voice or I saw some crazy miracle. It was really like
yeah.
a still small voice about like, hey, like, why did you do this in the first place? And I felt God
Mm,
asking me like that your heart intention, your purity in thought, like that's why I'm glorified.
oh,
And when I
yeah.
got reminded of that, it was like it's not even about business or money or about a brand and popularity. Once I threw all that away and I really realized what the purpose of Hello Revival was, that's when like a reset happened and an inspiration for our second product, which is our devotional journal. That's
Mm,
where that came from. It was like, God, I don't really care about the business part or even the brand. It's just like, I want to make products that inspire other believers to really pursue you. So I just created the devotional journal, something I needed from my own life.
yeah.
And then that ended up becoming like the popular product
Mhm.
that kind of brought the company back to its feet, which was
Yeah.
pretty beautiful to see. So I think that was the one moment that changed the trajectory of the brand.
Yeah, so good. That's so good. I really like how you had to take a step back and be reminded that this is what the purpose of Hello Revival was.
Yeah.
Could you tell us more about the name Hello Revival? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah. So I've always loved the word revival, like
Oh,
just my whole life. Like we always talk about praying for revival, like
yeah.
asking God to send this revival. And for me, like the whole concept of Hell Revival was about, again, the Monday through Saturday.
Mhm.
So I wanted this idea of like, how do you start your day with revival? And hello is like the global, singular, most common word you could think of.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning to a conversation. It's hello. So in that same way, like our conversation to God, our conversations through with ourselves, it's all about starting with revival. So that's kind of where the name was born, and there was quite nothing like it out there. And then the domain was available, so I just had to get it.
Awesome, that's perfect. I
Yeah,
love when a domain is or even an Instagram handle, right?
exactly, exactly.
And so going back into Hello Revival and the name behind it, what are your hopes and your visions for the future of Hello Revival?
Yeah, so Hello Revival is in a very interesting point right now where it's like, what's next, right? We've done the
Mm,
planner, we've done the devotional journal, we've done a finance journal, which is called our Good Stewards Journal. But I always, we're launching our 2022 planners this holiday season because that's something we want to do every year. But I was really thinking and reflecting this past year, like, what's the next step? What's the next journey or next part of this brand? And it's really to focus on this idea of that we're a spiritual wellness company. So we just want to inspire people to pursue after spiritual wellness. And
yeah,
with spiritual wellness, I really am an advocate that you need emotional, mental, physical, even wellness in order to achieve spiritual wellness. It doesn't make sense to me that you're missing the other parts of wellness but you have spiritual wellness. So
Mm.
I'm really a huge advocate for mental health awareness and seeing how we could help that. So I am trying to explore how we could shed some light onto that category or world. And I'm also really into like making fun ways, simple and fun ways to inspire people to like pursue spiritual wellness.
Yeah.
So got some cool products in mind. The only thing I could really share that it's not just a journal anymore. There's going to be other lifestyle products that I think could be really inspiring and really cool. So yeah, kind of going away from just journals. And also we're really looking into apparel and how we could make the brand more diverse for all different types of people. Not everyone uses a journal,
Mhm.
not everyone writes on paper. So it's 2021. We got iPads and computers everywhere. So
Yeah.
trying to expand the brand into much more different categories. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. We kinda get a little sneak peek into what you guys are releasing, so
Yeah,
that's
it's cool.
exciting.
Yeah,
But I really do love you guys still keeping on to that journal aspect in a world
yeah.
full of, like, iPhones and iPads too. I
Hmm.
think there's a sense of, like, writing down your feelings rather than typing
Yeah,
them, and it's so
agreed.
so amazing. So, while being the founder of Hello Revival, you're also a co-founder of
Yeah,
Drinksamy, correct?
yeah,
So, could you
yeah,
tell us more about what Drinksamy is and, what it's
yeah.
all about?
So Sammy was actually birthed and started from my wife. She also kind of like me, very entrepreneurial, creative. So last year during the pandemic, my wife's parents, they do wholesale
Mm,
for specialty drinks. But with the shutdown, the lockdowns, their business kind of took a huge hit. So my wife was really trying to figure out like, what can I do to help my parents in this unfortunate time?
yeah,
So we literally just went to a drawing board and she pitched the idea of like, hey, what if we did like make like a at-home boba kit for people to make at home?
mm,
Because the local boba shops or drink shops are all shut down. So I was
yeah,
like, that's genius. Like what a cool idea. So that's kind of how the idea was born. Sammy is actually the name of her dad. So she named the company after her dad, which my father-in-law, which was really cool.
that's so
Um,
sweet.
and so the idea started from a bedroom. We put together some thoughts, some mood boards, and then we just tried it, with the little experience we have. And turns out now people really like it. It's a cool brand. People fell in love with the drinks. It's really good products. So I help her in any way I can with the creative, digital marketing, and brand initiatives there. So yeah, that's Sammy.
So good. Okay, I'm saying it wrong. I said Drinksamy, so it's
Yeah,
Drinksamy, right?
yeah. Well, we're
Okay,
trying to get rid of the drink part in the front because a lot of people
okay,
get confused. But the brand is just Sammy,
okay.
and the website is sammy.com. So yeah.
Cool, yeah, I definitely think that's definitely awesome, especially in the pandemic. Yeah, when everything
Hmm.
shut down, it's like, "How am I gonna get my boba fix?"
Exactly.
So
Cool
that's
thing
really
is,
neat.
we will be in a really big handful of Nordstroms this holiday season. So
Oh,
it's pretty
snap.
exciting. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
could find us at your local Nordstroms for Christmas.
Say
Yeah.
less. I'm gonna get myself one as a gift.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
That's
That's
really
great.
cool.
Yeah.
So congrats, by the way, on the engagement, but you're married now, right? So
Yeah.
congrats on the
Yes.
wedding.
Yeah. Thank you.
How was wedding planning and how was, preparing for that process of, like, this
Yeah.
proposal?
Yeah. So the proposal part was obviously the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my entire life, but everything went smooth. It was great. And then once we got engaged, we didn't want a long engagement,
Mm,
especially with the ongoing pandemic. We didn't know like how long it would be around, so
yeah.
we just couldn't bank on anything. So we were just like, let's get this thing over with. My wife is a very, very good organizer and planner. Maybe she got inspired from Hello Revival. So she kind of led the charge on really executing all this wedding stuff. I
Yeah,
helped her as much as I can, but she's amazing at that stuff.
yeah.
So we got married within like 3 months after our engagement. We got married,
Wow.
and so it's been pretty hectic. 2021 has been a crazy year in a good way,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have done it any differently.
I think I saw the pictures on your Instagram. Beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
And I'm going back to, your ethnic and culture background of being a Korean American, do you feel that your ethnic and cultural background play a role in the things that you create, or do you feel that your faith plays a bigger role in the things that you create?
Yeah, I think, growing up as a minority
Mm.
in America, like there's always been a little bit of a competitive spirit in me to like wanting to prove myself. And I think that does play a part in not only in my creative drive or my entrepreneurial spirit, but I do think what overrides all of that is really my faith, like trying to do things that have impact, do things that are aligned to what God has called me to do in my life. I think that overrides anything, as much as I do think my cultural background does come in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm really learning to embrace my culture, embrace who I am, and through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, really figuring out what I want to do in life. So I would say it's a little balance of both, but ultimately my faith drives what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How did your parents take it when you decided to go for design? Were they on board? Were they
Yeah.
supportive?
So, like I kind of shared earlier, my parents never told me like you need to become a lawyer or a doctor. Like that's never come out of their mouths.
Yeah.
My dad's probably one of the biggest inspirations for my faith.
Mm.
Growing up, he always said like, I don't care what you do or what you want to do, as long as you love Jesus, I'm all for it. I will support you. So when they found out right out of high school that instead of going to a university or a college, that I decided to go to music school in the middle of nowhere in Kansas City uh, to pursue music, they were
Yeah.
like, all right, like let's see where that goes. And they really blessed me, sent me off, and that led me on a journey to really figure out what God has called me to do in my life.
Mm.
And then once I came back to the States, came back to California, um, I realized, having a career in music would be awesome, but I just didn't find as much joy in that.
Yeah.
And then, I discovered design and art, which at a young age, I liked to draw. I remember when I was in like early kindergarten or first grade, I would like try to make my own comic books.
Mm.
And I would have like a series of comic books that I drew and I wrote. So I wanted to kind of rediscover that passion again, early on in my college days. So I went to Art Center in Pasadena, which is like a really great design and art school. And that's where I fell in love with like creativity and coming up with ideas and bringing them to life. So once my parents found out like I was going to go to this school, they didn't know this school existed, before I told them. But
Yeah.
then my relatives started saying like, that's like the most prestigious art school there is. Like you should be so proud. And then my parents loved it, supported me as much as they could, and
Yeah.
they were very, very happy that I graduated with honors at Art Center.
Wow.
So they're truly a big blessing in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's
Yeah.
super amazing when our parents can support us in that creative
Yeah.
route because, most of the time it's very hard for them to come around to it, but,
Yeah.
that's really awesome that you had their support from the start. Uh,
Yeah. Truly,
so
truly
you
blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
so going back, with Hello Revival, and I know that, sometimes you journal, but also how do you spend your quiet time with God? Is
Hmm.
it journaling, or do you make different kind of arts, or how do you kind of get away from
Yeah.
creating?
Yeah. So actually, I don't go to art or design or creativity when it comes to like resting in the Lord or having
Mm.
my quiet time. I actually go far away from it because it
Yeah.
ends up becoming a distraction for me personally. For
Mhm.
others, it might be their safe haven. It might be their place to go. But for me, my brain starts spinning and I start producing, and I think that becomes more of a distraction. So
Yeah.
for me, it actually looks very different. I actually go back to music, which is like what I've grown up with my entire life. So just finding a time for me to either play music or listen to music, and get into my devotional time. I am trying to get better at like being more rhythmic with my like quiet times. Like,
Yeah.
life gets busy. It's not like we're robots, I could say,
Mm.
every day at this time. But I find myself, looking for inspiration also in my quiet time. Like sometimes I just want to go to a really cool building with like beautiful architecture and just like sit there,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but right now I also commute a lot for work. So like sometimes my car rides, my drives are my quiet time. So it really looks different in like whatever season I'm in. But the funny part is it doesn't look like me, what I do, which is like art and creativity and design. So it's a weird balance there.
No, I like it. Yeah. Because I know, especially me, I also, when I take my breaks or my quiet time, it's going back into the arts as well. And it's like, how
Yeah.
do I take that space from
Yeah,
creativity? And I
exactly.
think you have a really great balance of like just going to a building and being still and knowing that he is God in a sense, and also
Yeah,
going into a car and just driving.
exactly. Yeah.
So good. And so while you're running two businesses, you're also a creative director for Stoggles.
Hmm.
So what do you do as a creative director? And also, what is Stoggles?
Yeah. So Stoggles is I don't know if it's a startup anymore. It was launched during the heart of the pandemic
Mm,
last year,
yeah.
in about around September of 2020, by two art center people actually. So people from my school, alumni. And pretty much Stoggles is like a visionary eyewear company, I would say, that's trying to lead a movement to reimagine how people care for their eyes.
Mm,
So right now, like we make eyewear that's also protective and stylish. So it looks like your regular pair of cool glasses, but it has side shields and top shields to really protect you from anything. So a lot of people who love it right now are nurses or doctors or people in any like healthcare environment, like where they need to wear protective eyewear. This
yeah.
is like the cool hot thing which people love. um, so I got brought onto the team about 6.5 months ago, earlier this year. And for me, like, I really joined this company because I believe in it. Like I believe in the impact they're making in the world, for the sake of like just educating people on why our eyes are so important.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason why I'm there. But yeah, it's a great team of people. We're in Pasadena, California, doing some cool stuff. So Stoggles, it's a whole new type of eyewear, a new category.
That's awesome. And what's your
Yeah.
role as a creative director? What do you help them achieve for Stoggles?
Yeah, so I pretty much oversee the brand. So when I first came in, we did a whole brand refresh. We rebranded the entire thing from the packaging to the website to like any touch point. We've kind of redid the whole thing.
Yeah.
And really, my role on a day to day is to oversee the brand and also help grow the brand and let all those people out there know about Stoggles. So marketing, advertising, all that stuff comes into play, and do anything creative related.
And
Yeah.
how do you find the time to balance two businesses, being a creative director, a social life, and also
Yeah.
quiet time with God?
Yeah. So I now recognize that I do live very busily. Is that a word? I live very busy. Like I do a
Mm,
lot. And I think there's pros and cons to that, but I love, that I'm wired like that. I love doing a lot of things. And I'm also very like systematic. So my calendar is like beautiful. Everything's color coordinated. Everything is
wow. I have
perfectly
to
in
see
place.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So calendar could look really busy, but it's just beautiful to see it all color coordinated and stuff. But it's not easy. It's pretty tough at times, and it does take away from certain parts of my life. So
Mm,
sometimes my social life takes a hit, sometimes my devotional life takes a hit, sometimes my work life takes a hit. So it's been just many years of trying to balance. And it sounds kind of cliche, but really it's like relying on the Holy Spirit to figure out like what is priority, like where to go. And I do
yeah.
that a lot. So there's a lot of times where like I'm running a certain direction and then I just get this gut feeling like go the other way. So it bugs a lot of my like friends and even my wife because I'm very like spontaneous and I'm like trying different things, doing a lot of things. Um, but it really comes down to like the simple things like being organized, strategically planning, and time managing. It's like you have to get practical,
Mm.
so that's what helps me. And the biggest thing is having the right people and the right voices around you to keep you aligned and on the right track. So that's kind of been my success so far.
Yeah, so good. I like what you said about sometimes specific areas of your lives will take hits because I
Yeah.
think we're like, oh, I have to have 100% of this, 100% of this,
Hmm.
you know? Um, but to know that there's no perfect way to balance your life. It's
Yeah.
just what are
Yeah.
you going to prioritize? And I think you
Yeah.
explained that so well. And so,
Yeah.
what are some resources that you loved learning from and would recommend
Hmm.
for us to look into? And this can be anything from creativity wise to faith based.
Hmm. Yeah. So, man, so for me, like this idea of creativity and faith in one world is like somewhat a little still new in this world. Like not everyone understands the two different worlds coming into one. But there are some like key people that I look up to. One being Erwin McManus. He's the pastor of Mosaic Church. He's like the to me, I call him like the creative pastor because he's a designer, a creative, but he's also a leader, a pastor, a shepherd. So I love listening to him and his perspective. Although I don't go to his church or I'm like too involved with his ministry, just like his pure inspiration is really impactful in my life. So that's a good like creativity and faith balance. And when it comes to like creativity, like it's for me, I went to a design school that dumped all the history of design onto me, and my favorite by by far is Dieter Rams. Like I call him the designer of simplicity or the minimal
Mm.
designer. You know, in our generation, it's probably like Apple that most designers look up to, most creatives look up to. Um, but like he inspired Apple. Like
Wow, yeah.
he was leading creative at Braun, beautiful product design company that Apple referenced as they were building their company. And so he has a couple books. There's like 10 rules to good design. Just stuff I read in school that I still reference till this day. Great stuff. So that's kind of those are the references I look at. Well, when it comes to faith, I just feel like there's so many different voices and people, which is,
Mhm.
it's a good thing. We're like equipped with so much knowledge, so many like resources out there. I would actually, what's the best way to put this? Like, there's a lot of resources, but I really think there's power in the local church and getting
Yeah.
like local ministry. So for me, my wife and I are really plugged into our local church that I've been at since like I was a toddler. I was very young.
Wow,
Um,
yeah.
Korean American church here in Southern California. And like as much as there are great voices and recommendations out there, like there's so much power in just being grounded. So pastors I've had for like my entire life here at the local church, like they're my inspiration, you know, and that those are people who I learn from on a weekly basis. So my advice would be get plugged into a local church and get equipped.
Yeah, so good. I think a lot of people forget that there's a lot of ministry opportunities that our
Hmm.
local churches need,
Yeah.
and it's like what you said. You have a really good community and really
Hmm.
good like accountability in your community, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
what we need to surround ourselves with, especially when we go to a home church. We can have these people not only be our friends at church, but be our friends outside of church, and
Yeah.
do life with us. So
Hmm.
that's really awesome.
Yeah. So good.
So, how can we connect with you and how can we support you, Paul?
Yeah. So, I mean, in this day and age, social media is amazing where I could connect with people like you who live in an entire different state.
Yeah.
So I love making friends through social media. Like I have a good friend who's a designer as well. He's in the East Coast. I'm in the West, but like we would never meet in person probably without phones, right?
Yeah.
So best way to connect for me is Instagram. Um, I'm on the platform at Paul Kim. I love connecting with people there. And best way to support, you know, Hello Revival or anything I do, like people realize even supporting a brand or a friend on social media, it's free. You know, you just
Yeah.
like a post, comment, share, tag, things like this help people learn more about the brand. So for me, my goal is for Hello Revival to be known to a lot of people as a resource. So just engage with us on social media, and that would be the best support.
Awesome. And for
Yeah.
anyone listening, I'm going to be having the links below so you guys can definitely check it out in the description box. Definitely support Hello Revival, Sammy, and as well as Stoggles,
Yep.
guys, and follow Paul. He has amazing content. I can say firsthand that his Instagram is super aesthetic.
Thank you.
So, Paul, this is the last question for us.
Hmm.
What is a word of encouragement that you would give to someone who is struggling with their creativity and their faith?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. Um, the beauty of creativity and faith is that they're pretty parallel
Mm,
in its entirety. So what I mean by that, as a creative, there are times where I nail it on a pitch or a project and I have the best idea, I see it come to life, tons of people love it, boom, it's awesome, I'm on a roll.
yeah.
But there are times where I'm in a creative rut or a little funk and I just can't produce anything. And I just feel like, am I a creative or like, what is going on? And that's the life of a creative. That's the process and journey of a creative. And it's funny because it's just the same with faith. It's sometimes you're on fire.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're saying things that you feel like the Holy Spirit is just preaching to your friends and family. There are other times where you're like, God, where are you? Like, I need you. I can't hear from you.
Mm,
So it's very similar in that sense. And my encouragement for anyone struggling in either creativity or faith or both is to really just real to understand that it's part of the journey. It's part of the process. Like it's never a perfect straight line. There's a reason why in scripture always it talks about mountains and valleys, highs and lows. Like that's life. And I think
yeah.
that's the beautiful journey of our faith and creativity. Like I actually love the low moments, especially as a creative, because it like gets me to become better.
Mm,
And the same with my faith, like it just gets me to seek God in a way that I've never done before. Um, so a lot of times, young creatives and people in the faith, like when they mess up or they're not performing, they like are really hard on themselves and get really into this weird mind space of like maybe this is not it, maybe I can't do it. My encouragement is simple, like just keep going. You know, the Bible talks about finishing the race, running the race strong. In that same way, in the creativity world or the faith world, like just keep running. Find people to be with you on that run. That's like
yeah.
the biggest importance right there. It's hard to run alone.
Mhm.
So when it comes to even creativity, like I have to have creative friends or people in my field to rely on. I can't do it alone. And the same thing with faith. We need creative community. We need Christian community to keep us running. So that's my encouragement to anyone who's listening.
That's awesome. And I love how you talked about the low moments because I definitely relate. I feel like in the low moments, that's where I like push myself even more to be like, okay,
Mm,
where and it makes me question myself, and I think reflections are really good too, to be like,
yeah,
"What are you actually doing? And is this
yeah,
what you wanna do?" And the one thing I've been noticing as I'm talking to all of these awesome, amazing Christian creatives
yeah,
is that they all have the same value or the same way that they see failure is that it's not the end. That
yeah,
failure is just that push.
yeah.
And I love that the way that they view failure in a sense of it's not a thing to be scared of, but it's a
Hmm.
thing to embrace and it's gonna
Yeah,
happen no matter if you're really good
exactly.
or
Yeah,
or still
yeah,
starting out. And so
yeah,
I'm so encouraged by your words of encouragement for us,
mhm,
Paul. So thank
yeah,
you again.
hmm,
And thank you for being on this podcast with me. I've enjoyed this
yeah,
conversation so much.
yeah. I'm so
Um,
honored, very honored.
yeah, so we're so excited again. I just can't wait for everyone to listen in on this. But thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys later. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode of Turn on the AC. We hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. If you don't already, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other platforms that you're listening to. You can also follow me on Instagram at rose.xiong and Turn on the AC's podcast on Instagram at the.asiancreatives. You can find and watch us on YouTube at rose.xiong. Leave us a comment, rating, and a review. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends and family. If you enjoy listening to Turn on the AC and would love to support us, you can give us a donation on Anchor. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys on our next episode. Bye, guys.